I'm Sarah, 25, and I thought I knew what family favoritism looked like until Christmas morning 2023. My sister Emma unwrapped a brand new BMW with an actual red bow in our driveway while I held a crumpled envelope containing a single dollar bill and a note saying "For your future." That moment shattered everything I believed about unconditional love and equal treatment. What I discovered next about my parents' financial decisions and my sister's manipulation would destroy our family forever, but it also led to the sweetest revenge I never saw coming. Before we dive into this family betrayal that'll make your jaw drop, let me ask, where are you watching from today? If stories about family drama and ultimate karma get your heart racing like mine, smash that like button and hit subscribe because this revenge tale has more twists than a soap opera. Trust me, you'll want to stick around for what happens when the golden child finally gets what's coming to them. Now, let me take you back to where it all began. Growing up in the Sullivan household meant living in Emma's shadow from day one. She arrived 2 years after me, but you'd think she was the first and only child based on how our parents, Margaret and Robert Sullivan, treated her. While I was expected to maintain straight A's just to get a good job acknowledgement at dinner, Emma's B+ in art class warranted a celebratory dinner at the most expensive restaurant in town. The inequality wasn't subtle. When I turned 16, I received a used Honda Civic with 150,000 miles that barely started on cold mornings. Emma's 16th birthday party looked like a debutante ball, complete with a rented venue, professional photographer, and a brand new Lexus that cost more than my college tuition. I remember standing in the corner of her party, watching our relatives gush over her bright future while I served appetizers like hired help. College applications revealed the true depth of their favoritism. Despite my 3.9 GPA and acceptance to several prestigious universities, my parents informed me that I'd need to take out student loans because it builds character. Emma, with her 3.2 GPA and acceptance to a mediocre state school, had her entire education funded, tuition, room, board, and a generous monthly allowance that exceeded my part-time job earnings. I worked 3 jobs through college while Emma posted Instagram stories from spring break trips to Cancun and Europe, funded by emergency money transfers from our parents. When I graduated summa cum laude with a degree in engineering, the family celebration was a dinner at Olive Garden. Emma's graduation ceremony, where she barely scraped by with a communications degree, was followed by a week-long celebration in Hawaii for the entire extended family. The professional world didn't shield me from their favoritism either. When I landed my first engineering position at a respected firm, earning a solid starting salary, my father's response was, "Well, at least you can support yourself now." When Emma got a part-time social media coordinator job at a local boutique, they bought her a downtown condo as a career starter gift. Every family gathering became an exercise in emotional endurance. Relatives would ask about my career achievements, but before I could respond, the conversation inevitably shifted to Emma's latest adventure or acquisition. I learned to smile politely while inside. I felt like I was slowly disappearing from my own family narrative. The most painful moments came during family photos. I'd position myself strategically, hoping to be included in the center of the frame, only to find myself cropped out of the versions they posted on social media or displayed in their home. Their Christmas cards featured Emma prominently, with me barely visible in the background, if included at all. By my mid-20s, I had achieved everything they claimed to value: financial independence, career success, and personal growth. Yet Emma, who moved back home after college and worked sporadically, remained their shining star. She could do no wrong, while I could do nothing right enough to earn their genuine pride or equal treatment. The pattern was so consistent that I began to question my own worth. Maybe I wasn't as accomplished as I thought. Maybe Emma deserved the special treatment. Maybe I was just jealous and bitter. These doubts plagued me until that Christmas morning when their favoritism reached such an extreme that it became impossible to rationalize or excuse. December 25, 2023, started like every other Christmas in the Sullivan household, with Emma as the star of the show. I had driven 3 hours from my apartment to participate in what I now realize was my final family Christmas. The morning routine was predictable: coffee, small talk about Emma's latest endeavors, and the ceremonial gift exchange that always left me feeling like an afterthought. The living room was decorated with Emma's face literally everywhere. Photos from her recent influencer photo shoot dominated the mantel, her college graduation picture held the place of honor on the piano, and even the Christmas tree topper seemed to catch light in a way that highlighted her senior portrait on the side table. I had long since stopped expecting my achievements to be displayed prominently, but the complete absence of my presence in the family home's decor struck me harder than usual that morning. Emma bounded downstairs in designer pajamas that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget, immediately diving into her pile of presents that occupied half the living room. My gift section consisted of 3 modestly wrapped items tucked discreetly in the corner, but I had learned not to expect quantity or quality to match hers. What I hadn't expected was the theatrical production that was about to unfold. "Emma, sweetie, your biggest surprise is outside," Mom announced with barely contained excitement, practically vibrating with anticipation. Dad was recording everything on his phone, already positioned for the perfect angle to capture Emma's reaction. The entire family, including visiting aunts, uncles, and cousins who had conveniently arrived in time for Emma's big moment, formed a parade toward the front door. In our driveway sat a pristine white BMW convertible with an enormous red velvet bow tied across the hood. The car was gorgeous, probably worth more than I earned in an entire year, and represented a level of extravagance that took my breath away. Emma's screams of delight echoed through the neighborhood as she jumped up and down, tears of joy streaming down her face while our family applauded like she had just won an Oscar. The moment was beautifully orchestrated, clearly planned for weeks if not months. Mom had positioned herself perfectly for photos, Dad had multiple camera angles ready, and even our neighbors had mysteriously appeared to witness this grand gesture. Emma's reaction was Instagram perfect, complete with the right amount of surprise, gratitude, and photogenic tears. "Oh my God, you guys, this is literally the best day of my life," Emma gushed, already posing for selfies with her new car. "I can't believe you did this. Thank you, thank you, thank you." She hugged our parents while I stood frozen, watching this display of love and generosity that exceeded anything I had ever imagined possible from my family. The car wasn't just expensive, it was specifically chosen with Emma's preferences in mind. The interior was customized with her favorite color accents, the sound system was upgraded to professional quality, and they had even arranged for her insurance to be paid for the entire first year. Every detail had been carefully considered to maximize her happiness and demonstrate their unlimited investment in her desires. As the family celebration continued around the BMW, with relatives taking turns admiring the gesture and praising my parents for their generosity, I felt something shift inside me. This wasn't just favoritism anymore, this was a statement. This was my parents declaring to the entire extended family, the neighbors, and anyone who would listen, exactly how much they valued each of their daughters. Standing there in my 5-year-old winter coat, watching Emma climb into her luxury vehicle while everyone cheered, I realized that I had been fooling myself for years about the possibility of ever achieving equal standing in this family. The BMW with its red bow wasn't just a gift, it was a declaration of Emma's permanent position as the treasured daughter, and by extension, a confirmation of my role as the expendable one. After the BMW celebration died down and the extended family retreated indoors to warm up, I thought perhaps my gift exchange would bring some balance to the morning. I had spent months carefully selecting presents for everyone, using money I had saved from my engineering salary to buy meaningful, thoughtful gifts that reflected how much I cared about each family member. Emma's reaction to her remaining presents was performatively enthusiastic. Designer handbags, expensive jewelry, the latest tech gadgets, clothing from brands I couldn't afford to window shop at, the pile seemed endless. Each item was unwrapped with theatrical gasps and social media-ready poses. Mom and Dad beamed with pride at their ability to fulfill Emma's every desire, and she responded with perfectly timed hugs and tears of gratitude. When my turn finally arrived, the energy in the room shifted noticeably. The phone cameras were lowered, conversations became more subdued, and I could feel the family's attention waning. My first gift was a nice sweater from a department store, practical, thoughtful, but clearly not Instagram-worthy. The second was a book I thought my mother might enjoy. The reactions were polite but lukewarm, the kind of responses you'd give when you're already mentally moving on to more interesting activities. Then came the envelope that would change everything. It was small, thin, and unremarkable, the kind of envelope you might use for a greeting card or a check. My parents handed it to me with mysterious smiles, as if they were presenting something special. Emma was already distracted by her phone, probably posting about her BMW, but a few relatives were still watching with mild curiosity. I opened the envelope carefully, expecting perhaps a gift card or a check, nothing extravagant, but something that showed they had put thought into what I might need or want. Instead, I found a single dollar bill, an actual, wrinkled $1 bill, and a small piece of paper with a handwritten note, "For your future, love, Mom and Dad." The silence that followed was deafening. I stared at the dollar bill, convinced this had to be a joke, a setup for a bigger surprise, or some kind of misunderstanding. I looked up at my parents, waiting for the punchline or the real gift, but they were watching me with expectant expressions, as if they had just given me something meaningful and were awaiting my gracious response. Is this my gift?" I asked quietly, my voice barely audible over Emma's excitement in the background as she discovered another expensive item in her pile. "We thought you could use it as seed money for your savings," Dad explained matter-of-factly, as if this made perfect sense. "You're always talking about being financially responsible, so we wanted to help you get started." The insult was so profound, so utterly tone-deaf, that I couldn't immediately process it. They had just given my sister a car worth more than $50,000, and they were presenting me with $1 as if it were a meaningful contribution to my financial future. The mathematical reality was staggering. Emma's gift was worth 50,000 times more than mine. But the monetary disparity wasn't even the worst part. The note, "For your future," implied that they believed $1 represented an appropriate level of investment in my life goals and dreams. It suggested that they viewed my future as worth exactly $1 of their support, while Emma's immediate desires were worth a luxury vehicle. The relatives who witnessed this exchange looked uncomfortable, shifting in their seats and suddenly finding their phones or the decorations very interesting. The contrast between the two gift exchanges was so stark that even our most oblivious family members couldn't ignore it. A few of my cousins exchanged glances that clearly communicated their disbelief at what they had just witnessed. I held that dollar bill for what felt like an eternity, feeling its cheap paper texture between my fingers while my parents waited for me to express gratitude for their thoughtful gesture. Emma, still glowing from her BMW surprise, glanced over and saw me holding the money. "Oh wow, cash. That's so practical," she said cheerfully, completely missing the devastating inequality of the moment. "You can put it towards something you really need." Her innocent comment somehow made everything worse. She genuinely couldn't see the problem with the situation, couldn't comprehend that our parents had just demonstrated the exact monetary value they placed on each of their daughters' happiness. To Emma, this disparity was so normal, so expected, that it didn't even register as unusual. That dollar bill became a physical representation of 25 years of unequal treatment, dismissed achievements, and emotional neglect. It was the final, undeniable proof that I would never matter to my parents the way Emma did, no matter what I accomplished or how hard I tried to earn their love and respect. Sitting there clutching that dollar bill while my family continued their Christmas celebration around me felt like an out-of-body experience. The laughter, the excited chatter about Emma's BMW, the casual dismissal of what had just happened, it all became white noise as something fundamental shifted inside me. For the first time in my life, I wasn't questioning whether I was being too sensitive or overreacting. The evidence was literally in my hand. I excused myself to the bathroom, needing a moment to process what had just occurred and decide how to respond. In the mirror, I saw a 25-year-old woman who had spent her entire life trying to earn love that was never going to be equally distributed. My reflection looked tired, defeated, and smaller somehow than I remembered. The bathroom walls were covered with Emma's achievement certificates from high school, participation awards and attendance recognition, while my engineering degree and professional certifications weren't displayed anywhere in the house. When I returned to the living room, Emma was already planning her first road trip in the BMW, mapping out routes to visit friends in other states and discussing how she might leverage the car for her social media content. My parents were enthusiastically participating in this planning session, offering to pay for gas money and hotel stays to support her adventures. The conversation flowed naturally, filled with excitement and possibilities, the kind of supportive dialogue I had always craved but never received when discussing my own goals and dreams. I sat back down with my dollar bill still in hand, and that's when my father made a comment that would haunt me forever. "Sarah, maybe you could help Emma plan her route. You're good with that practical stuff." Even in Emma's moment of triumph, they were finding ways to make me useful to her rather than celebrating anything about me independently. The afternoon continued with relatives taking turns photographing Emma with her BMW, creating what would undoubtedly become a legendary family story told at future gatherings. "Remember when Emma got the BMW for Christmas?" would join the folklore of family memories, while my presence that day would likely be forgotten entirely, except perhaps as a footnote about who helped serve dinner. But something else was bothering me beyond the obvious favoritism. The expense of Emma's gift was substantial, not just the car itself, but the insurance, the customization, the elaborate presentation. For parents who had always claimed financial limitations when it came to supporting my education and career goals, this display of wealth was jarring. Where had this money come from, and why was it suddenly available for Emma but had never been accessible for my needs? During dinner preparation, while Emma held court in the living room describing her BMW's features to anyone who would listen, I overheard a conversation between my parents and my aunt that stopped me cold. They were discussing Emma's gift in the kitchen, and I caught fragments of their discussion from the hallway. "Had to dip into Sarah's college fund remainder," Dad was saying quietly. "She never used it all anyway, and Emma needed." Mom's voice trailed off as they noticed my presence. The pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. There had been a college fund for me, money that I never knew existed because they claimed they couldn't afford to help with my education. While I worked multiple jobs and took out crushing student loans, there had been money set aside for my education that they had apparently redirected to fund Emma's lifestyle. The BMW sitting in our driveway had been purchased, at least partially, with money that was originally intended for my future. This discovery transformed my hurt into something much more dangerous, a cold, calculating anger that clarified my thinking instead of clouding it. This wasn't just favoritism or emotional neglect. This was financial betrayal, a deliberate redistribution of resources from my future to Emma's immediate gratification. They hadn't just failed to support me equally, they had actively stolen from me to fund their favoritism. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of forced smiles and polite responses while I processed this revelation. Every laugh from the living room where Emma was still celebrating felt like salt in a wound that was deeper than I had realized. Every compliment directed her way felt like it was being stolen from acknowledgments I should have received for my actual accomplishments. As the family began to disperse and Emma prepared to take her first official drive in the BMW, I made a decision that would change everything. I wasn't going to confront them that night. Christmas evening with extended family present wasn't the right moment for the conversation we needed to have. But I was going to take control of this situation in a way that would make them understand exactly what they had lost. The drive home to my apartment was the longest 3 hours of my life. That dollar bill sat on my passenger seat like a talisman, reminding me of everything I needed to remember about this family dynamic and everything I needed to forget about hoping for change. By the time I reached my front door, I had formulated a plan that would give me the closure I needed and the distance required to build a life free from their toxic favoritism. I spent the next few days in a strange state of clarity, methodically planning my exit from the Sullivan family dynamic while maintaining a facade of normalcy. The dollar bill remained on my kitchen counter, serving as daily motivation for what needed to happen. Every time I looked at it, I remembered not just the humiliation of Christmas morning, but the overheard conversation about my redirected college fund that had been used to purchase Emma's BMW. The more I researched my options, the more empowered I felt. I had been living my life seeking approval from people who had already decided I wasn't worth their investment. The revelation about the college fund wasn't just a betrayal, it was theft of my future opportunities, money that could have prevented years of crushing student loan debt and financial struggle during my early career. My engineering background served me well in planning this operation. I approached it like a complex project, identifying all the variables, potential complications, and desired outcomes. The goal wasn't just to leave, it was to make a statement that would force them to confront the consequences of their choices without giving them the opportunity to manipulate or gaslight me into accepting their behavior. On December 28, I began implementing my plan. I had taken time off work through New Year's, ostensibly to spend time with family, but really to execute my exit strategy. The first step was financial independence verification, ensuring that every aspect of my life was completely separate from any potential family control or manipulation. Bank accounts, insurance policies, emergency contacts, professional references, everything needed to be thoroughly divorced from the Sullivan family influence. The second step was documentation. I had kept records of the major incidents of favoritism over the years, but now I organized them systematically. The college fund revelation was just the tip of the iceberg. I found evidence of other financial decisions that had favored Emma at my expense, patterns of emotional manipulation, and a clear trail of unequal treatment that painted a devastating picture of systematic favoritism. December 30th was a Saturday, which meant my parents would be sleeping in before their usual Sunday morning routine. Emma had posted on social media about her plans to spend the weekend at a friend's cabin, showing off her BMW on mountain roads. The house would be quiet, and they wouldn't expect any communication from me until the following week at the earliest. At 3 a.m. on December 31st, I sent identical messages to both my parents' phones, followed by a detailed email that laid out everything I had discovered and experienced. The timing was deliberate, early enough that they would see it first thing upon waking, late enough that I would have a significant head start on whatever reaction they might have. The text message was simple. The dollar bill you gave me for Christmas made me realize exactly how much you value me as a daughter. Since that's apparently all I'm worth to you, I'm returning it with interest. Check your email for details. Don't contact me. The email was comprehensive, professional, and devastating. I detailed the Christmas morning humiliation, the overheard conversation about the college fund, and 25 years of documented unequal treatment. I explained how they had systematically undermined my confidence while inflating Emma's ego, how they had stolen from my educational opportunities to fund her lifestyle, and how their favoritism had damaged not just our relationship but my ability to form healthy relationships with others. But the real power move was the financial component. I had calculated the approximate value of everything Emma had received that I hadn't: the car payments on her luxury vehicles, the college expenses they had covered for her but not me, the gifts and loans that were never expected to be repaid, the condo down payment, and dozens of other advantages she had received. The total was staggering, over $200,000 in differential treatment over the years. I informed them that I was returning their dollar bill along with 1 cent representing the interest on their investment in my future. The physical envelope containing $1.01 was being delivered to their house via certified mail that morning, requiring signature confirmation. I wanted them to experience the same feeling of opening an envelope expecting something meaningful and finding a token amount instead. The email concluded with my decision to go completely no contact. I explained that this wasn't a negotiation or a bid for attention, it was a permanent boundary. I had blocked their phone numbers, email addresses, and social media accounts. I had informed my landlord, employer, and close friends that the Sullivan family was not to be given any information about my whereabouts or activities under any circumstances. The most important part was the final paragraph, where I addressed Emma directly even though she wasn't receiving the message. I explained that she was welcome to continue enjoying the privileged position she had always held, but she would be doing so without me as an audience. Her drama, her celebrations, her crises, I was officially no longer available to serve as her supporting cast member. After sending the messages, I turned off my phone and spent the rest of the night awake, feeling simultaneously exhausted and energized. By sunrise, I had started the first day of my new life, one where my value wasn't determined by comparison to my sister or approval from parents who had never learned to love their children equally. The first few weeks of 2024 passed in blissful silence. I had disconnected from all Sullivan family social media accounts, but curiosity got the better of me, and I created a fake account to monitor their reactions from a distance. What I discovered exceeded my expectations for drama and perfectly validated my decision to cut contact. Emma's initial response to my disappearance was telling. Her social media posts shifted from BMW celebration content to increasingly desperate attempts to provoke a reaction from me. She began posting throwback photos of us together with captions like "missing my sister" and "family is everything," but these rang hollow given her complete indifference to my feelings during the Christmas incident. More revealing were her private messages to mutual friends, which were eventually shared with me by people who were disturbed by her behavior. Emma wasn't concerned about my well-being or hurt by my absence, she was angry about losing her audience and support system. Her messages revealed that she had always viewed me as a reliable source of validation and assistance, someone who would always be available to celebrate her victories and help her through challenges. "Sarah is being so dramatic over a stupid car," she complained to our cousin Jessica. "Like, she has a job and her own apartment. Why does she care what I get for Christmas? She's just jealous that Mom and Dad love me more." That last sentence, shared with me by Jessica, who was horrified by Emma's callousness, confirmed everything I had suspected about the family dynamic. Emma wasn't oblivious to the favoritism, she was actively aware of it and felt entitled to preferential treatment. She had always known that our parents loved her more, and she considered this natural and appropriate rather than problematic. My parents' reaction was more complex and evolved over the weeks following my departure. Initially, they seemed to dismiss my email as an overreaction, posting family photos that conspicuously excluded me without any acknowledgement of my absence. Dad's Facebook status updates continued normally, as if nothing had changed in the family structure. But as days turned into weeks without any response to their eventual attempts to contact me, their public facade began to crack. Mom started posting vague messages about difficult family situations and adult children making hurtful choices. These posts generated questions from friends and extended family members who were clearly unaware of what had transpired during Christmas. The turning point came in late January when Emma's BMW developed mechanical problems. The luxury vehicle that had been the centerpiece of Christmas morning required expensive repairs that weren't covered under warranty. Suddenly, Emma needed financial support for something that was supposed to represent her independence and success. According to Jessica, who had become my unofficial intelligence source, Emma expected our parents to cover the repair costs without question. But my parents, who had apparently overextended themselves financially with Christmas purchases, couldn't immediately provide the money Emma needed. For the first time in her life, Emma was told she would need to figure out a solution on her own. Emma's response to this unprecedented experience of not getting immediate financial rescue was spectacular. She threw tantrums that would have been embarrassing from a toddler, let alone a grown woman. She accused our parents of not caring about her, threatened to move out, and dramatically declared that she was being treated just like Sarah. That comparison was particularly illuminating because it revealed Emma's awareness that my treatment had been substandard, but she had never cared about the inequality until she briefly experienced a fraction of what I had lived with for years. Her outrage at being asked to handle her own problems lasted exactly as long as it took her to realize that throwing a tantrum would eventually get her what she wanted. Meanwhile, I was thriving in ways I hadn't expected. Without the constant emotional drain of family drama and favoritism, I had energy for new friendships, hobbies, and career advancement opportunities. I received a promotion at work, started dating someone who appreciated my accomplishments, and began therapy to address the long-term effects of growing up in a family where my worth was consistently diminished. The most surprising development was how many people from my extended family reached out to me privately after learning about my decision to go no contact. Cousins, aunts, and uncles who I had assumed were oblivious to the family dynamics revealed that they had noticed the preferential treatment for years but hadn't known how to address it. Several relatives apologized for not speaking up or intervening when they witnessed particularly egregious examples of favoritism. These conversations helped me understand that my experience had been visible to others, validating my perceptions and decisions. I wasn't crazy, oversensitive, or ungrateful. I had been systematically mistreated, and other people had recognized it even when they felt unable to help. By February, my parents had apparently realized that I wasn't going to break no contact voluntarily. They began reaching out through intermediaries, asking relatives to convince me to forgive and forget so we could move past this misunderstanding. But their messages revealed that they still didn't understand what they had done wrong or why their behavior had been harmful. They wanted me to return to the family dynamic on their terms, accepting the same unequal treatment while pretending nothing had happened. They offered no apologies, no acknowledgement of wrongdoing, and no commitment to change their behavior. They simply wanted their family structure restored to its previous state, with me resuming my role as Emma's supporting character and their emotional punching bag. 6 months after my 3 a.m. exodus, the universe began delivering the kind of poetic justice that makes you believe in karma. I learned about these developments through my network of family informants who had become increasingly sympathetic to my situation as they witnessed the ongoing dysfunction in my absence. Emma's BMW, which had been the symbol of her privileged status, became the source of mounting problems. The initial repair costs had been just the beginning. The luxury vehicle required premium maintenance, expensive parts, and specialized service that drained her minimal income from her part-time social media job. Without me around to provide practical advice and emotional support, Emma struggled to manage adult responsibilities that she had never needed to handle independently. More significantly, Emma's social media influencer aspirations began crumbling without the steady foundation of family support that she had always taken for granted. Her content became increasingly desperate and attention-seeking as she tried to maintain her lifestyle and image without the financial backing she had assumed would always be available. Brands that had initially been interested in collaborating with her began distancing themselves as her online presence became more erratic and entitled. The breaking point came when Emma attempted to monetize our family drama by posting a viral video titled "My Sister Abandoned Our Family Over a Christmas Gift." In the video, she painted herself as the victim of my jealousy and overreaction, portraying our parents as generous, loving people who were heartbroken by my sudden and cruel departure. But Emma had underestimated the intelligence of internet audiences. Comments poured in from viewers who immediately recognized the red flags in her story. "Your parents gave you a BMW and her $1? And you don't see the problem?" became the top comment, with thousands of likes and replies supporting that perspective. The video backfired spectacularly. Instead of garnering sympathy for Emma and pressure for me to return, it educated thousands of strangers about the toxic family dynamics that had driven me away. Screenshots of the video and comment section were shared across social media platforms, with my story becoming a cautionary tale about family favoritism and the importance of setting boundaries with toxic relatives. Professional consequences followed quickly. Emma's employer, the boutique where she worked part-time, decided that her viral notoriety wasn't the kind of attention they wanted associated with their brand. Her remaining brand partnerships dissolved as companies distanced themselves from what had become a public relations nightmare. My parents, who had initially supported Emma's video as a way to pressure me into returning, found themselves facing social scrutiny they hadn't anticipated. Friends, neighbors, and extended family members who saw the video began asking uncomfortable questions about their parenting choices and the true reasons behind my departure. The most delicious irony came when my parents' financial situation became strained by Emma's increasing demands for support. Without me as a reliable, self-sufficient daughter who never asked for help, they had only Emma, whose lifestyle required constant financial intervention. The BMW payments, insurance, repairs, and Emma's general living expenses created a drain on their resources that they hadn't experienced when I was absorbing my own costs and often helping with family expenses. Meanwhile, my life had transformed in ways that exceeded my wildest expectations. The promotion I had received led to another advancement and a salary increase that put me in a higher income bracket than I had ever imagined possible. My relationship with my boyfriend, Marcus, had deepened into something serious and supportive, a partnership where my achievements were celebrated and my worth was never questioned. Most importantly, I had gained something invaluable: peace of mind. Without the constant stress of family drama, favoritism, and emotional manipulation, I discovered parts of myself that had been suppressed for years. I was funnier, more creative, more confident, and more capable of forming healthy relationships than I had ever realized. The final piece of karma arrived through an unexpected source. A former colleague of my father's reached out to me through LinkedIn with information that completed the picture of my parents' financial betrayal. He had been involved in setting up educational investment accounts years ago and felt compelled to share what he knew about my college fund after hearing about our family situation through mutual connections. The fund hadn't just been redirected to Emma's BMW, it had been systematically depleted over years to finance Emma's lifestyle while I struggled through college and early career challenges. My parents had stolen from my future repeatedly, using money designated for my education to pay for Emma's cars, vacations, wardrobe, and general expenses. The total amount exceeded $150,000 in today's dollars. This information provided the final validation I needed and the legal standing to pursue recovery if I chose to do so. But more than that, it confirmed that my instincts had been correct. This hadn't been mere favoritism, it had been financial fraud, committed by parents who had valued one daughter's immediate desires over the other's future security. As I sit here a year later, writing this story with that same dollar bill framed on my wall as a reminder of my worth and my strength, I can honestly say that leaving was the best decision I ever made. My parents gave Emma a BMW with a red bow, gave me a dollar bill, and inadvertently gave me the greatest gift of all: the motivation to build a life where my value isn't determined by their approval. That $1 became the seed money for my independence, my self-respect, and my happiness. Emma can keep her BMW and her golden child status. I got something far more valuable, I got my life back. So here's my question for all of you who've made it this far in my story: have you ever experienced family favoritism that made you question your own worth? Have you seen karma come full circle for people who treated others unfairly? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Sometimes sharing these experiences helps us all feel less alone in dealing with toxic family dynamics. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life drama and justice-served stories. Share this with anyone who needs to hear that it's okay to walk away from family members who don't treat you with respect, regardless of blood relations. Your mental health and self-worth are too important to sacrifice for people who don't appreciate your value. Thank you for listening to my family revenge story. And remember, sometimes the best revenge is simply living well and refusing to accept treatment that's beneath your worth. Life has a funny way of teaching lessons to those who need them most, and karma has a very long memory. Take care of yourselves out there, And don't let anyone convince you that you deserve less than equal love and respect, especially from the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally.